All right, so we'll be really quick. And we've given a few presentations so far. We'll keep this one kind of more the spec details, the technical aspects of it. But basically, we have an HDR extension of Basis Universal. It's going to be coming in just a few weeks, or at least the initial stages of it. 6 times compression on both download size and on the GPU, and that's really the innovative aspect here. We can have a WASM transcoder as well, so it'll work on the web. It's just a simple subset of ASTC, so it should be kind of a easy fit into a lot of pipelines, and we basically hope that this enables a lot more people to use HDR. Instead of needing a copy of every single thing or just sending uncompressed HDR to the GPU, you can just use one format that will transcode in real time. And when I mean real time, it is very fast, like equivalent to lossless decompression or decompressing one of your images. And yeah, we also have an uncompressed option if you just want to use it as a storage solution. You can see we really focused on quality this round, so you will get the 6x compression, but at very little quality loss. Technically, there is quality loss, but most humans cannot recognize it. And so Rich will go quickly over the technical details.
Thanks, Steph. Yeah, so I have my full slide deck in here, and you can always read that later. I'm sure the slides will be available online. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fast forward. So we're introducing something called what we're calling UASTC HDR. We've already shipped the LDR version. And what UASTC HDR is basically ASTC. ASTC is this extremely complicated LDR and HDR texture format. To create an actual full encoder for it would take years. We've worked on this for approximately a year. And so what we're doing is we're taking AST HDR, we're distilling it down to its core, the core that is compatible with BC6H, which is another very common HDR texture format on desktop, while ASTC is mostly mobile. And we're creating an encoder for that, and we're creating a specification for that. And so just want to, because I don't have a few minutes here, I just want to go through the really fast, the exact features that we're supporting for ASTC and BC6H. So in ASTC, this is basically going to be a spec on top of an existing chrono specification for ASTC. We're supporting solid color blocks. We're supporting a couple different Keller endpoint modes inside of ASTC. And what this boils down to is internally how the decoder is configured. So we're going to support SEM7, which are Illuma lines, and SEM11, which are arbitrary lines in 3D space or color space. We're supporting, very importantly, we're supporting 1 or 2 partitions or lines in 3D space, and that helps us get down the block artifacts. We're supporting a whole different bunch of quantization modes in ASTC. The good news is that BC6H only supports 32 partition patterns, so we can support 27 out of those 32 that are in common with ASTC. And we've removed upsampled weight grids. We don't think that adds enough quality to justify the extra complexity. So basically, any existing ASTC encoder can be modified fairly simply to encode to this format. And just want to remind you that because this is ASTC data, on mobile there is no transcoding at all. You just give a pointer to the driver or the API and or whatever, you're good to go. On the BC6H side, that's mostly desktop. There is a transcode step. There is no decoding to Texel's necessary, which is really good because encoding BC6H and ASTC is quite expensive. It's a full-featured transcoder. It supports all the different modes in BC6H. And there's some details in here in the slides about how exactly the transcoder figures out how to do this. Note, this is a WebAssembly friendly transcode process, and it does not require SIMD at all. And so I'm just going to get some graphs here. So these are, you got to forgive me. I think I put 6 up there at the top, 6 photos, but I actually added a 7th. I figured I'd just find one of the worst ones in one of our data sets. So the higher the bar, the higher the quality. And I got to emphasize that at the quality levels we're at, we can't just look at the high-res image and decide, oh, this is what quality this is, and is this better or worse than some other image. We have to look at statistics constantly. And so the blue here is ARM's ASTC ENC. That's the best available ASTC encoder available. We have the latest version up here in thorough mode, so it's the highest quality. So you can see that when all of the ASTC texture features are utilized, we get really high quality. Now, very importantly, if you'll notice, the UASTC HDR and UASTC HDR to BC6H are very similar quality. Like we're losing just usually a fraction of a dB there. Now, at the right, I decided just to throw in like what we're working on now is we would like to boost this up a little bit here on one of these test images. However, note that this is a logarithmic metric, and anything above 40 to 45, it's basically imperceptible. So we are testing on real HDR monitors, by the way. Yeah, and so I'll just get some images now and it'll be done. So this is Sponza. This is the one on the very right, one of the harder ones. And you can see on the left is the source texture. UASTC HDR, which is ASTC in the middle, and then you can see that transcoded to BC6H on the right. And they look very, very similar. There's a few blocks where you can see where it lost a little bit of detail, but it did its best to preserve it. And you already saw this, so I'm going to get to the next one. So this is tree.exr. This is an extremely high dynamic range image. It's one of my more favorite ones because you can look inside the tree and see these really, really dark texels. But then there's a sky up there and they're really, really bright. And this is a transition region where it's from very bright sky texels to really dark tree there. And this is the source. And now I'm going to flip over to UASTC HDR. And I'll go back to the source, UASTC, so it's extremely similar. Now I'm going to go from UASTC to BC6H. And these are virtually identical. Like it's probably impossible for a human eye, especially on this monitor, to see any difference. And so we're shipping this in about 4 weeks in the Basis Universal repo.
Yep. So if you want to get involved, here's our information. Binomial, Basis, and you can participate in 3D formats calls as well.